So it appears season 2 is starting to delve into some conspiracy theories and whether or not some of them are true. While I do have it on good authority, there's one conspiracy theory out there that is absolutely 100% true. And here it is. So you see, what's up guys, Mason the Brock Henderson here, and this is Criminal Minds Evolution Season 2 Episode 3, Homesick. So unfortunately they took the story in the way that I was worried they were going to take it when it comes to this idea of conspiracy theories and what Voight is trying to do, because they introduced a guy that is very clearly supposed to represent a certain group of people. I won't say who because, again, I'm trying to keep these videos from turning political, but yeah, he mentioned that there's a deep state, but no, there's no deep state. That's a conspiracy theory. So the fact that they just decided to go all in and lean toward one side and try to be like, oh yes, those people on the other side, they have all these conspiracy theories. Oh, they're so crazy and out there. Shouldn't be listening to anything that they have to say. I find that kind of ridiculous. And on top of that, I feel like there's just this general rule that anytime somebody is a conspiracy theorist or they have some crazy conspiracies, basically everything they say is labeled as conspiracy. It doesn't matter if some of what they say has proof to it. It doesn't matter if some of what they say is true. As soon as you're labeled a conspiracy theorist, that's all you are. That's all you ever talk about. And so I was kind of hoping, even if they were going to lean more towards one side as far as conspiracy theories and all that, at least show that this guy is more well-rounded, show he's a nice guy, show that he's not crazy, even if you think some of his ideas are crazy. But instead, it kind of feels like they're leaning toward this idea that, no, he's a conspiracy theorist, and he's crazy, and he's a total douchebag. Because the attack at the end, and the fact that he's pointing the finger at Emily, I do have some thoughts about possibilities for the stories here, and I feel like it's going to go one of three ways. The first two kind of lays into the idea that he's just a douchebag. First idea I had is that he somehow set all this up. We saw the person taking the pictures. In my mind, that's somebody he's working with. And the idea is he now has pictures of the two of them meeting, and then he gets beaten up, and then he calls the police, and she's there standing over his beaten body with a gun out. And so now he can sort of claim, see, I'm right about all this stuff. Look at what they did to me. The second idea I had, which would make him a little bit less of a douchebag, but still a douchebag overall, is the idea that maybe in his mind, he does think Prentice was involved in this attack. You know, he assumes that, well, I met with you, and then I called you, and then these guys come and beat me up. Clearly, you're involved in this. In which case, he's more ignorant, but he's still a douchebag. The last possibility, which would make him not a douchebag and more so a victim in this whole scenario, these people set up, whoever is behind this attack on him, set this whole thing up and basically threatened him to say, look, we're going to kick the shit out of you. You have to blame it on her. Whether they're trying to frame her for something, whether this is somebody inside the government trying to maybe cause problems for the BAU and get them off of the case with Voight, I don't know. But this could be something that he was either told or threatened to do. And these guys kicking the shit out of him is kind of proof of that. So like I said, three possibilities in my mind of what this could be. I really hope it's the third option, just so he's not this one-note stereotypical, oh, this is what all these people are like whenever they have these ideas and theories and they're on that side of the political divide. Yeah, they're all crazy like this guy and they're all douchebags like this guy. Outside of that, the other three stories all kind of landed a little flat in this episode. The first one we'll talk about is Tyler, because apparently he got this information about somebody who I guess he knows was on this strike team. And so he tracks him down, he threatens him, the guy knows he's not actually going to kill him, so he basically shoves him off, but he was copying his phone and now takes it to Garcia. He's doing all this on his own again. And like I said, it really takes down his character several notches, because Rossi literally told him not to go all lone wolf on it. And granted, he's going to Garcia, so that's not technically lone wolf. No, but he's still going outside of the team to do this. He's still going out on his own and doing this. He could have gotten killed by this guy. We don't know. And who knows, even if they find information about Gold Star on this thing, they can't use it because it was obtained illegally. So it just feels like he's still kind of doing what he should not be doing, and that's very frustrating for him to not learn his lessons from the first season. The stuff with Luke and JJ, we find out what Voight whispered to him at the end of last episode, and I mean, I get it. I get why it's disturbing. I get why Luke is upset about it, but it does kind of feel like the reaction was a little ridiculous. at the end of last episode, at least, for him to attack Voight because he told him about this website. I mean, is it really warranting of that type of reaction that you know he's trying to goad out of you? To me, it feels like Luke was just kind of being dumb in the last episode now, knowing that that's what Voight told him. Finding out Prentice knew about it, that would be upsetting for him, but still, to go after Voight and give him what he wants, attack him so he can make more demands, it feels very simplistic and very naive from Luke's point of view. And even whenever they go to visit Voight's family, the way that Luke approaches the situation and kind of goes at the mom like, hey, how long has she been lashing out? Even that kind of felt very naive from him. I mean, how'd you expect her to react to somebody else after she's been having to do this whole parenting thing on her own for several months while they've just been out in the middle of nowhere? They can't go and do anything. You really think somebody coming in and going, hey, how long has your daughter been acting out? Like, how is she supposed to react to that? It felt very idiotic from Luke to even bring that up. The only other thing to talk about is Luke does tell JJ that she is the focal point of the website since she is the media liaison. It is kind of weird that at the beginning of the episode, she was kind of acting, I don't give a crap about it. Makes sense. The way she approaches things, she does have to sort of distance herself from thinking about that stuff, from looking at any of that stuff. And then she finds out that it's apparently all about her. And I guess her mindset was, well, everybody's on there. But finding out she is the main one or the only one on the website, I guess could affect her a little bit. But it does sort of feel like it's affecting her a lot. It does feel like the change in her character was very sudden for me. But the final and probably least important thing in this episode, which is pretty shocking, was the case in this one. Because it really didn't affect anything at all. It was a completely separate case, unconnected to anything going on with Gold Star or with Voight. It was just a random case. Tara and Rossi go out on their own. They solve it. They save this one family. Bada bing, bada boom. We're done. And that's kind of it. The only thing we really get out of it is that Rossi wasn't thinking about Voight. At the end of the case, Voight comes back into his mind again, and he's talking to him again. That's apparently the only thing we get, is that throughout the case, I guess it distracted him from Voight, so he didn't hear him in his mind anymore. But all in all, this episode did bring things down a little bit for me. One final thing, kind of focused on Garcia, but to be fair, it's sort of my thoughts on the whole show. There is this sort of weird writing thing as far as the comedy and what the show is about. Because it does sort of feel like the comedy that they have in the show now is still very similar to the comedy they had in the original show, which a lot of it is centered around Penelope, her reactions and stuff like that. Not that the team couldn't crack jokes. You know, there were times whenever they would have a little joke, something to maybe give the audience a laugh since the show is so dark. Now, with the comedy sort of remaining the same, but the rest of the show sort of getting darker, it feels like there's a really weird tonal shift at times. You know, we're talking about what this guy is doing, rapping people's faces, suffocating them, breaking into their homes. And then we cut to Garcia and Prentice having a conversation about Tyler. She's like, I need to talk to you. Can you talk to him? Garcia buries her face in her purse and like, no, I don't want to say this to your face. It feels weird. It feels like that's a completely different show. She's acting more like she's on a sitcom than she is on a show that is very dark and depraved when you think about the subject matter. And I know Garcia is supposed to sort of be the counterbalance, the contrast to all the darkness in the show. But at the same time, in the original show, it felt like she was still a real person. She was just trying to maintain this happy facade, almost because she didn't want to get caught up in all the darkness that they experience on a daily basis, which I think is fine. But with the show getting a lot darker in its subject matter and how it handles it as well, it feels like they've almost amplified her a little bit more, made her a little bit more goofy than she was in the original show. And I feel like that contrast has just grown so significantly to now her scenes do feel very off-putting. And even a couple of the scenes, like I said, it's not just her. There are some scenes with the team that do feel maybe a little bit too goofy. When you think about, for instance, Tara and Rebecca arguing during a stakeout. It's kind of sitcom-y in its setup. And the fact that these two are arguing and bickering about their past relationship while they're on a stakeout. Should you really be doing that? That feels more like NCIS territory. So it's something that I don't think I really fully grasped until this episode. And I think it was mostly Garcia's scenes that helped me realize that. Because there were a couple of moments. That moment where she buries her face in her purse, the moment whenever Tyler texts her about wanting to see her, she's like, well, you can see your butt. What? Doesn't even make sense even on a sitcom. It was just stupid. So anyway, that was my little rant done. All in all, this episode was not as strong as the first two, Hopefully they pick it back up because I'm excited to see where this Gold Star case goes. Hoping we can get a little bit more focus on that. And again, this stuff with Brian and whatever he's doing, whether he's actually turning on Prentice or whether he is being threatened, I don't know. But I am just hoping that if they are going to tackle this idea of conspiracy theories and how they relate to real life and how they relate to politics and all of this, I really kind of hope that they can at least show a bit of both sides and not just focus on bashing one side. I'm just kind of done with that. I've dealt with it for so long in a lot of just all the shows that I watch, and it just gets draining at some point. So with all that being said, on to the next episode. I'll see you guys there. And now, episode 4, Kingdom of the Blind. Apologies because it started storming during this episode. In fact, at some point the power cut out, so I had to restart everything because thankfully it flipped back on pretty quickly. But as far as this episode, I mean, we're a lot more focused on the main story for the season, so definitely better than the last episode. A lot of it's pretty interesting. I still think there's a lot of questions that need to be answered. But first and foremost, I will talk about the whole Brian Garrity situation because it was thankfully the third option, which is he was basically told to blame it all on Emily or else they were going to hurt somebody close to him. Thank goodness. I'm glad they're not really digging into this whole idea that he's just a douchebag and this is what all conspiracy theorists are like and blah, 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 and all that stuff. I was really worried that's the path we were going to start taking with him. But no, we seem to have put that to the side for now. He's off doing his own thing, maybe a little stupid in that. But at the very least, it seems they're not turning him into just a total evil villain douchebag, which is good, in my opinion. I don't really know what he's looking into, though. I feel like it's kind of weird that the team is figuring out about this Gold Star group or whatever, that we're all supposed to be taken out by these mercenaries or something. I don't really feel like we have all the answers there, but it's weird that he somehow finds out about this stuff. I really want to know how he's getting this information, because it feels weird that some random dude that just happens to be neighbors with Emily is somehow getting so much information about what happened with the director's deal with Voight, with Gold Star. How is he figuring all this out? It feels like there's something else going on here with him that they're not letting us know about yet. So I'm curious about that, but I am also curious just about this Gold Star program. Why were these mercenaries or assassins or whatever you want to call them, why were they all assigned to these 5 different, seemingly kids? Because they all seem pretty young, especially whenever this, I guess, operation took place years ago. Because it doesn't feel like this is something that happened recently. So what was the point of this program? What was the point of sending these assassins, mercenaries, whatever they are, agents, I suppose? What was the point of sending them after these 5 kids? Why was it called Gold Star? What were they supposed to do? It feels like there's a lot of stuff we still don't really know about. And with Elias, what does he know about Damien and these kids? What does he know about their situation? How much in control of them is he? Because this feels like something he might have taken on at some point. Maybe gave them this idea and just kept it in his back pocket. And why is the government, why is the director trying to keep this all under wraps? What about this? What about Gold Star is either embarrassing enough or dirty enough that the director's trying to keep it all under wraps and doesn't even want the BAU to know about it? So I feel like a lot of the questions and mysteries they're bringing up in this episode are very interesting, and I'm excited to see more about it. But with that being said, this episode was not flawless. There were some issues. We do have more with Garcia and with Tyler, him coming in to help her and her keeping him around. A lot of that stuff is still just not interesting to me. Their little conversation where he kind of opens up and apologizes. I'm glad he at least went in and took the phone to the FBI, didn't just hide it. So thank goodness for that. But everything else with him and Garcia, I'm not interested. I'm really not interested in most of their personal lives right now. The only one that I might be interested in is JJ and Will, but they've not even talked about them at all this season. She's not gone to... I figured she would at some point go to him, especially after what she learned about the website, the BAU gate or whatever. But we're still not seeing them at all. And their relationship was kind of the only one that I really cared a whole lot about from the original show, at least to my knowledge. There might have been a few others. I think Rossi and his... I don't remember which wife it was that he remarried at the end of the original series. But back to this show, stuff with Tyler, just not interesting. We do have a couple of moments where JJ's trying to talk to Prentice about what she knows about the BAU gate, but she just sort of drops it by the end of the episode. I don't know if it's because she realizes it's not that big of a deal, or if she drops it because maybe she just decides she wants to forget about it. I don't know. Yeah, so that's put to bed, I guess, for now. The stuff with Elias and his family, pretty interesting, and I don't know where they're going to take it. Obviously, they're now in witness protection, so probably won't focus on them for a little while. But the stuff with his daughter and all of the little hints that maybe she is going to go down the same path that he did. And you could see there is seemingly genuine fear from him that that's going to happen. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if he actually is worried about her being like him, or if he's sort of playing it up for the cameras, because there are several moments, Luke's trying to get him to admit that he is Sicarius on camera, so they have the confession, but he's still dancing around it, trying to say, what do you want me to admit, a lie that I'm Sicarius? So he's still not giving in, even though Luke is not budging on a lot of this stuff. So this could all just be played up for the cameras for him to almost turn it on the team, and whenever they play that footage, it could almost be used to his advantage. Just like, look, I begged for my daughter's life. Look at how they treated me. They were so focused on trying to get me to admit I'm something I'm not, that they're willing to let my daughter go down this dark path for that sake. But there could be some genuine fear for him. There could be a genuine concern. I don't think he really wanted to be the way he is. We saw a lot in the first season that he was not happy with his life. He was not happy with those thoughts and those tendencies that he got as a result of what happened to him when he was young. So that scene could have been genuine. I'm not entirely sure. I don't know if we'll ever get that answer, but it feels like a lot of that just sort of got brushed off by the end of the episode. Even whenever they're leaving to go into witness protection, JJ just sort of goes, yeah, I think they're going to be okay. And I didn't really get that sense. With JJ talking to Sydney, I didn't get a sense that everything was going to be okay. Kind of felt like Sydney was sort of brushing her off as if, yeah, you're going to be there for me to call. Cool. How's that going to help me? How do you know for sure that my daughter's going to be okay? It just felt like there was a lot of uncertainty there with both of them. And so the fact that JJ says that she thinks everything's going to be fine, but personally, I don't really believe it. Moving on, we learned a little bit about that Jade girl in this episode. I will say the fact that she managed to get one over on her dad, maybe a little too easy for that to happen. I mean, he's got a gun trained on her, and she just manages to grab a rock and swing and hit him with it, and he doesn't even react. Like, I know he's a bit older, but still, you would think, finger on the trigger, she moves quickly, bang, she's gone. So it was a little silly in that regard. I thought it would be better if, like, he went to grab her and pull her back up, and then she swung and hit him. I know it's a minor thing, but director, could somebody maybe look at that and go, this isn't realistic for her to hit him with that rock while he's got a gun trained on her from that distance. But I really hope from now on this will be sort of focused on us getting more answers about what happened at this one place that all these kids were at. I can't remember the name of it now. I'm going to try to commit it to memory in the next episode. But like I said, a lot of these mysteries that they're bringing up are very interesting, and I'm excited to see more about it. I'm very intrigued. And this is a type of feeling that I don't feel like the original series managed to get out of me very often. There are a few stories that did pique my interest, that did get me excited to see more, but not to this extent, and not for this overarching type of story either. Most of the time it was, you'd bring up a story at the beginning of the season, we'd focus on it maybe 1 or 2 episodes throughout, and then by the end of the season, then it's getting wrapped up. But for a majority of the episodes, and they were pretty long seasons too, like 20 episodes, 22 episodes, something like that. I would say 3 or 4 of those episodes were focused on whatever interesting story there was. The rest of them were one-off episodes. And some were good, some were bad. But this is 10 episodes, and it feels like every single one we're making progress. We're taking steps toward this larger picture. And the fact even that Elias Voigt has been sort of the focal point for a lot of the season still, even though he was technically season 1's main villain, he's still heavily involved. He's still a major player in this season. And I think that adds just a little bit of an extra edge to everything going on. And the fact that he's sort of taunting the team, you can tell he's really intelligent. So even though he's behind bars, it still feels like he's dangerous even from there. And I feel like having that type of villain really amplifies this season, and honestly kind of takes the show to new heights that I didn't expect after the first season. I thought it would be still pretty good, but they're expanding upon this idea really well, and got me excited to see more. So Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on these 2 episodes? Let me know, we can talk about and discuss all the good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Criminal Minds Revolution reviews. Also check out the channel, we have a lot of other reviews on here as well as some Let's Plays, so check those out if you have time. But until next time, I hope you guys have a great day. I'll talk to y'all later. Peace out.